major flips, makes sense. Okay, let's go. Going up, I'm going long. I told the squad, meet at the base. Punt the bags, I punt the stock. It must be hard to keep the pace. 7 figures out the songs, that was the outcome of my pain. We're bringing $1 billion on chain.
Some people gon' leave whenever there's tough times, but shout out to the real ones that stuck by. Dark days make you appreciate when there's sunshine. Reason I trust mine. Look, I got some moves to make. I gotta get it right now, I refuse to wait. Really don't do the fakes. I gotta keep my grass low just to view the snakes. If only you knew the stakes. Taking these risks to pursue was great. I got some moving bass. Now I'm on chain and I'm using bass. Using bass. Now I'm on chain and I'm using bass. I've been outside, I'ma choose my faith. Cooking the shit of a food on plates. And then when Rio be standing on business, there ain't no way we can lose this race. I had to manage the damage inflicted. Put on the grass, we don't use the brakes. Nah. So many chains I've been able to mint. So many ways now I'm taking my pick. Bullet the best while I'm still in the market. Wallets on wallets, I'm staking a bit. Face like a little B. Say what I say, now she feel to me. Make what I make, now they shielding me.
Big dog, big drums, big bass. When she look around, she see bass. Try to play keep up, but it's way too late.
Onchain is the next online.
I love it. Welcome everybody back to Onchain Stories. I'm your host, Jesse Pollack. Super excited to be here on this beautiful Tuesday. I am lucky enough to be joined by Kayvon, the founder of Foundation. Kayvon, welcome.
Thank you, Jesse. Very happy to be here. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. I wanted to start before we dive into Foundation and Genesis with just learning a little bit more about you. Can you kind of share for the audience what your journey has been coming on chain and maybe how it's impacted your life?
Yeah, I mean, I go back. I went on a long road trip after a kind of a startup journey and was looking for the new thing. And so that it really started for me 2016, 2017. Ended up getting involved in the DeFi scene. You have to remember DeFi wasn't even DeFi for a long time. We had to come up with that name. But that's when on-chain for me started to click, right? Just using these weird new financial services. I did start on Coinbase, I think like as everyone does, but very quickly, got a MetaMask wallet and started writing smart contracts and started talking to the smart contracts from my wallet. So, back then, very few people on chain, very weird things happening. The money was real though. And it was really, really interesting to see how to use smart contracts to do things that, I started my career on Wall Street and, the vision of smart contracts made immediate sense to me, knowing what I knew from kind of the 2008 era. And so, yeah, that's my origins. And then from there, I view myself as a creative technologist. So finance never felt like the end station, right? I knew that this technology had to get in the hands of creators and creative people and needed to kind of express itself as a creative medium. And so as soon as DeFi worked and that clicked and technically it was solid, I ran to what I knew was my passion, which was bringing this to creators. And that's how Foundation started.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about the journey of Foundation. So you started kind of as this reaction of, okay, these smart contracts work, the money components of working on. Now it's time to bring creativity on chain. Kind of where has it taken you thus far?
Yeah, DeFi was the beginning because I think once we had money, I think blockchains created money, right? We had digital money, and that was a huge explosion. Then you could build financial services. That was where I kind of cut my teeth, and then I really felt like I understood smart contracts. And while I was working on this, I just have certain theories about the world. And I think when you build a disruptive technology, and I think Chris Dixon talks about this in his new book about how really disruptive technologies kind of come from they kind of come from the outside, right? They're not from the inside. And so smart contracts always felt that way. And to me, it wasn't the lawyers and the bankers and the people on Wall Street that were going to benefit from this. It would be people that didn't have access to those things. And so that always connected, to me with creators and people online, right? Which was the ability to just be on the internet and make money from what you're producing in your home, in your life, as an individual, as an artist, that was compelling. That's just not possible, right? Those people can't go up and issue tokens and assets on Wall Street. That's just not things. That's not what Wall Street was designed for. And so that kind of just sat in my head while I was working in DeFi, and once I really felt like DeFi worked. I mean, I still remember the early days of using Uniswap when there weren't even real tokens in it. It was everyone just kind of playing with fake tokens. Like I started my own coin, which I think is apt because of the meme coin mania right now. But that, that's how it clicked. And then for me, it was, I started the company at the beginning of 2020. And it was just really an interesting year where I talked to artists, and I really tried to explain smart contracts and wallets and cryptocurrency. And there was a lot of question marks and a lot of confused faces. But then, it's that startup story where you persist, and then people started emailing me back, and they were like, okay, cool. The pandemic was going on. It was like, let me try this thing. Let me try something new. Let me go digital. Right. And people were really open to that. And I think any of us who are really plugged into the scene know what happened next, which is, it clicked. Like people all of a sudden were like, yes, this makes total sense. And we went through the mania of 2021, but that's kind of those are some of the big inflection points for us.
I love it. And I love the kind of framing of, you had these people on Wall Street, the bankers and the lawyers who historically had access to kind of create these new kinds of assets, have access to contracts, but all of that was not accessible to most everyday people, the people on the internet, the people who are creating content, the people who are creating art. And that smart contracts are kind of this moment where what's accessible is expanding. And now those same tools, or even 100 times better versions of those tools, are starting to be available to everyone. I think that's pretty magical kind of shift that we're seeing happen right in front of us.
That idea, as simple as it sounds, just sat in me like for years. Like as soon as I got into the space, it was kind of like marinating there, which was like, this is going to find its way into the hands of the people that don't even think about issuing assets, right? Like that's when it's going to explode and create totally new things. And that's really what disruptive sort of technology does. And it takes a lot longer to get there than people imagine, right? If that idea kind of started in my head in 2017, like it's 2024. But if you just chip away at it, it's unbelievable how the world kind of bends to your vision. And I think we're seeing that right now.
Yeah, I think we're seeing it right now too. And it also feels like we're seeing that a little bit as well with the kind of move to L2s. Because, just in the last 5 years, now it's opened the aperture and more people have had access, but still been very expensive. And so if you didn't have, $20 or $50 to create a contract, you were kind of left out. But now with L2s, we're actually seeing it 100 times, 1,000 times cheaper, which is kind of opening the aperture. What's y'all's journey been there? How are you thinking about L2s?
Yeah. I think the thing I would love to share with the community is when we initially launched in 2020, we actually were on L2. In 2020, we were on XDAI because we had this whole vision that artists needed their own smart contracts. We were going to build this whole graph structure where they owned all these contracts and they could have just incredible provenance. But the thing is, we were just too early. Like people didn't have wallets. XDAI was this like side chain that required DAI as the base currency. It was just very ahead of its time. And so the ideas were fundamentally right, in my opinion, right? There was nothing about that experience that I think was wrong, other than it was too early on both the user experience side and the underlying technology side. But that we always wanted this endpoint, right? And we realized, and I think, Jesse, I'll maybe we can share this after, but I've just written a blog post on this. You have to stage the journey properly, and people needed to onboard onto ETH-L1. They needed to get wallets. They needed to understand smart contracts to then feel like they could actually use more advanced technology like L2, right? And so for us, it's just an incredibly exciting moment because we've just been very disciplined here. We know these things. We know about bridging and the relationship between the layers. It's always something we've wanted to make possible on Foundation. And hats off to you and the base team, but it's really clear right now that the community is shifting, right? people are confident, and they're feeling we're really investing in L2. We're solving the UX problems. We're building really trusted brands and contexts that people can rely on to get to L2, and that's changing everything. And so
Yep.
for us, this is the vision finally being able to be like unlocked, right? And I think like Nat from Highlight, who I know you've hosted here and worked with, we talk about this all the time, and I think one way we talked about it was like L1 helped us prototype. Like we had to get all this architecture, infrastructure, and branding and marketing concepts out there to get people to understand it. That happened, and now we can finally do the work of saying, great, like let's truly build the ecosystem as it should be designed. And that's really, I think, what's happening right now. That's why the energy is so high. That's why I think you're seeing all these inflection points across the board in terms of the number of people participating. It makes sense, right? $100 transaction costs don't make sense to millions of people. That's hardcore crypto freak territory.
Yeah, it just doesn't work for the everyday people. And I do think that mental model of like we were prototyping for 5 years, and now the scaling strategy of Ethereum is playing out, right? Ethereum is taking a roll-up centric scaling strategy. These L2s are Ethereum. They're just the next generation of Ethereum. Vitalik wrote this in a blog post that there was the 2010s way of building on Ethereum, and now there's the 2020s way of building on Ethereum. And the 2020s way of building on Ethereum is L2 native. And so I'm really excited to be getting to build with y'all, and really excited about Genesis, which I think just opened 13 minutes ago. Can you share a little about what is Genesis?
I'm avoiding trying to open that page right now and seeing what's happening. But I will, as soon as we sign off, I will check it out.
Can you share a little about what is Genesis? What's this moment? And how can people, participate?
When we launched in 2021, and this was a strategy we always deployed, we directly worked with artists. That was the brand. That's the thing that motivated us and inspired us to build Foundation. And so for us, Genesis is our inaugural exhibition on Base. We don't just ship technology and say, cool, use it, right? We come and we really tell stories. And so for us, Genesis is our beginning on Base. It is us planting the flags, starting the party. We're not just leaving it up to debate how that should happen. And the people that we've enlisted in this exhibition are super special to us. These are the people that took leaps of faith with us at our beginning, right? When everything was super weird, super janky, people were really taking risks. There's some really big names, in this artist roster, and they were willing to kind of work with a startup at the really earliest stages and throw their hat in the ring. And so we're honoring them. We're bringing new work from each of them on chain, on Base, and we're auctioning it off in kind of our signature experience. And so while we're bringing all of Foundation, editions, drops, exhibitions, our whole product suite, we're kind of just honoring our origins, which was a really curated roster of artists releasing really exceptional work and auctioning it off in a really fun on-chain way. So that's Genesis. It's a historic moment. We're really excited to host it on Base.
I'm so excited about it, and I've been getting kind of sneak peeks of the experience for users. And I think one of the things that feels really profound to me is just the liveness of the auction format, and the interactiveness of it. I think that there's something really different about the way you can experience participating in a live auction on L2 versus L1. It's not like every time you're clicking, it's like, oh, am I going to pay $10 to just place a bid? Instead, it's like, no, it's 1 cent. You're not even thinking about it. And I think that that's going to create a pretty profound kind of user experience difference in how people are actually engaging with this art.
And if we shift to the builder side, Jesse, it's also challenging developers to build in net new experiences. So totally. The auction timer used to be 15 minutes on L1, and this is also before EIP 1559. Right. Yeah. So, this is a format that was forged in a very different context and era. So we've actually really evaluated everything from the smart contract to the back end, to the front end, to the user experience. Everything had to change to kind of go to Base. And I think that's the really exciting point here is this is a new medium. It's a new era. It's a new medium. Everything's going to be challenged. We have to design new things. And Foundation, is all in. We're really excited to take on that challenge, and we're doing that work. And Genesis will feature auctions that are net new for us. Every layer of the stack got updated to kind of create this new modern experience.
I love it. And if you're watching this and you want to participate in Genesis, you can go to foundation.app. Is that right? Foundation.app.
Yeah, and the homepage
participate right there, right on the homepage.
Yeah.
So Kayvon, as you look towards the next few years with L2s kind of maturing, with people starting to get to experience this like lower fees, better user experiences, how do you expect the world's going to change for artists, for collectors? How is Onchain going to continue to impact us?
So this is I write about this, and I'll share it after this. But the point that I make is we often look to the physical art world as inspiration when we think about digital art. We're like, physical art has these qualities. The thing is, it is art, so that's true. I think that's a useful analogy. There's art hanging in my background, right? Like it's part of what inspired me. But the really interesting thing here is that that the NFT technology makes art just as much internet as it makes it kind of art from the physical world that you know. And the exciting thing about this next era is we're going to really start to smash the worlds together. And so I think you're going to start to get artists that are going to be able to talk to millions and millions of collectors in these formats that are going to mash together, you know, scarcity and auctions and, you know, minting at huge volume. And you're going to get art experiences that are going to just feel net new. They don't have a comp in the old world, and I think that's just really exciting. And I think artists that are truly of the modern era are going to find themselves more empowered than ever, just like I think a lot of creators felt that way in Web 2 with YouTube and all the products that came out of, you know, the Web 2 era of the internet. Like Web 3 is going to unleash a whole next level of creativity. And I think you and I both know this, but we're seeing the early signs like Zancan, Jack Butcher, Xcopy. There's a revolution brewing. And we're at the
revolution brewing.
We're at the very early stages of it.
Yeah, it's really incredible, and I for one cannot wait to see what people come on chain and create. So thank you, Kayvon, for participating in this. Thank you for bringing Genesis to Base. If you're watching this, you can check out Genesis by going to foundation.app. We'd love for you to participate in the Foundation experience on Base. So thanks, everyone. Have a great day. I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Jesse.